Spain. Land of infinite coastlines. Land of timeless art. Land of flamenco and passion. The sun shines tirelessly over coasts and cities. Ancient fortresses guard centuries of history. Olive groves stretch to the horizon. Welcome to Spain. Welcome to the cradle of the New World. Known as the land of explorers and conquistadors, this is a place where the sun shines for thousands of hours each year, where medieval castles dominate breathtaking landscapes, where the richest Mediterranean culinary tradition has found its most authentic expression. But let's start from the beginning. Spain stretches from the southern tip of Europe to the borders with France, embracing a geographical diversity that leaves you breathless. It's the second most mountainous country in Europe, after Switzerland. Yet in the south, it harbors the continent's only true deserts, like the Tabernas Desert in Almeria, where the arid landscape has served as a backdrop for countless Western films. With over 8,000 kilometers, or nearly 5,000 miles of coastline, this nation boasts one of the most extensive coasts in Europe, bathed by both the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. Its more than 60 islands, scattered between the Balearics and Canaries, offer ever-changing landscapes to discover, with the Canaries exceeding 3,000 hours of sunshine per year, making Spain one of the sunniest destinations on the continent. In this mosaic of landscapes, moreover, history has left an indelible mark. About 10,000 castles dot the territory, many from medieval times, while 47 UNESCO sites testify to one of the world's greatest cultural riches. The Aqueduct of Segovia, for example, an extraordinary Roman monument that remained functional until recent times, while Seville's cathedral is the largest Gothic building in the world and houses the remains of Christopher Columbus. Then there is the linguistic diversity of this land, which reflects its cultural richness. More than 60 languages and dialects echo among its regions, each guarding unique traditions that are also reflected in local cuisine. Each region, indeed, offers dishes that tell stories of history, tradition, and territory, from Andalusia to the Basque Country, from Catalonia to Galicia. The aroma of the famous jamón permeates Spanish tables, symbol of a culture that consumes over 40 million kilograms, or 88 million pounds every year. In Andalusian countryside instead, olive groves extend as far as the eye can see, producing about 45% of the world's olive oil, that is about 1.5 million tons, or 3.3 billion pounds. But it's in the lands of La Mancha that another precious treasure is born, and that is saffron. Spain produces about 70% of global saffron, with those golden pistils that dye paella its characteristic amber color. And indeed, paella, born in Valencian rice fields, has become Spain's culinary ambassador to the world, uniting in a single dish sea, land, and tradition. And wine? With over 5,000 varieties, each glass tells the story of the terroir that generated it, from Rioja to Ribera del Duero. In this scenario, there is a people whose passion ignites particularly on football fields. Real Madrid and Barcelona are among the world's most followed and decorated clubs, reflecting the deep love this nation nurtures for football, transforming every match into a collective celebration that unites generations. Spain, therefore, is much more than a simple peninsula. It's an entire world, a place that continues to tell its story to anyone with eyes to see and heart to feel. But now let's discover the most incredible and iconic places of this nation. Madrid. The Spanish capital lives between elegant squares and popular markets. In the streets of the historic center, buildings inherited from the Habsburg era alternate with noisy cafes where life flows quickly. The Prado Museum houses European masterpieces, while the Royal Palace recalls the monarchical past. There's no shortage of green spaces like Retiro Park. Once a royal garden, today instead it's a place for strolls and boats on the lake. In the evening, in neighborhoods like Malasaña or Lavapiés, you'll find venues that blend tradition and modernity. Madrid is a city with no precise schedules, with late dinners and lively nights. The heart of the city is Puerta del Sol and Gran Via, meeting point and symbol of Kilometer Zero, from which all roads of Spain are said to depart. Canary Islands. In the Atlantic, off the African coast, rises an archipelago shaped by the fire volcanoes. Tenerife, the largest among the islands, houses Mount Tide, which is Spain's highest peak and center of a national park that crosses landscapes of craters and lava flows. To the north, green slopes host banana plantations and villages of colonial origin, like La Orotava and La Laguna, the latter a UNESCO heritage site. The city of Santa Cruz instead unites port, markets, and modernity, while the southern coast is marked by tourist beaches and trails that climb toward more remote mountains. Then there is Lanzarote Island, which fascinates with Timanfaya National Park, which has vineyards grown in ash, and Cesar Manrique's architectures that blend art and nature. Gran Canaria, continuing, mixes dunes and beaches to the south, with mountainous gorges and inland villages. And there's Las Palmas serving as cultural and commercial center. Fuerteventura, finally, is characterized by expanses of light sands beaten by wind, refuge of surfers and fishermen. The smaller islands like La Palma, La Gomera, and El Hierro guard forests and reserves. Valencia. Nestled on the eastern coast, it unites ancient heritage and futuristic architecture. In the historic center, the cathedral preserves a chalice venerated as the Holy Grail, while medieval towers recall the walled city. Not far from the center, the Turia Garden, created in the bed of a diverted river, offers kilometers of greenery crossed by historic bridges and tree-lined avenues. Today, life also pulses in the City of Arts and Sciences, a modern complex that houses museums, an aquarium, and cultural spaces. The central market, among aromas of oranges and spices, showcases Mediterranean cuisine that finds its most famous dish in paella. There's no shortage of sea, with Malvarosa Beach just minutes from the center. Castile and León. A vast region marked by highlands and mountains, guarding medieval castles and Romanesque monasteries. Here, ancient kingdoms were born that shaped Spain's history. Cities like Salamanca shine for their historic universities and Baroque squares, while Burgos houses one of Europe's most important Gothic cathedrals. There's also Segovia, which fascinates with its Roman aqueduct and Alcazar, dominating the city from above. León, with its historic center and basilica, recalls the pilgrim past along the Camino de Santiago. In the rural landscapes, finally, one comes across villages of stone, vineyards, and golden fields. Andalusia. Spain's far south, this region lives on contrast. Snow-capped mountains, cities with Moorish past, white villages and sunny coasts. Its identity is the result of centuries of encounters, with Phoenicians, Romans, Arabs, and Christians leaving indelible marks. Granada houses the Alhambra, palace that interweaves gardens and Islamic architecture. Seville shows the Giralda, Plaza de España, and neighborhoods like Santa Cruz, with narrow alleys and shaded squares. Córdoba preserves the Mezquita, which is a cathedral built inside a mosque, symbol of complex heritage. To the north, the Sierra Morena and the Sierra Nevada offer trails and panoramas, while to the south, the Costa del Sol alternates between tourist harbors and windswept cliffs. Flamenco culture is born here, in neighborhood venues and popular festivals. Olive oil produced in vast countryside accompanies simple dishes like gazpacho or salmorejo. Finally, there are also port cities such as Cádiz, facing the Atlantic and recalling stories of explorers. Galicia. In Spain's northwest, this region faces the Atlantic, with jagged cliffs, deep estuaries, and fishing villages. Santiago de Compostela is the spiritual heart, destination of the famous pilgrimage, with its Baroque cathedral welcoming pilgrims for centuries. The coast alternates fjords where mussels are cultivated, with wide and windy beaches. In the interior, instead, hills host vineyards that give birth to excellent white wines. Along the roads, you notice horrios, which are granaries raised on stone and wood, characteristic of rural landscape. The cuisine values fish and seafood, with Galician-style octopus as symbolic dish. A humid and rainy climate keeps the landscape green all year round, and main cities are connected by railways that make travel convenient. Basque Country. Between Atlantic and Pyrenees, the region preserves strong linguistic and cultural identity. Bilbao has renewed its image with Guggenheim Museum and modern neighborhoods, rising beside the old industrial port. San Sebastian faces an elegant bay and lives between city beaches and Pinsos venues, which are small tastings reflecting local gastronomy. The interior shows green mountains, stone villages, and rooted pastoral tradition. Finally, the coast alternates between rugged cliffs and small harbors, while the Basque language, one of the oldest in Europe, continues to be spoken alongside Spanish. Barcelona. A city facing the Mediterranean, interweaving modernism, history, and vibrant daily life. Antoni Gaudí's works, like Sagrada Familia, with its towers still under construction, Casa Batlló, and Park Güell decorated with mosaics, are symbols that define urban identity. In the Gothic quarter, narrow streets reveal Roman traces and medieval squares, animated by small cafes and artisan shops. La Rambla, pedestrian artery descending to the port, remains one of the most frequented places, among markets like La Boqueria and street artists. The city houses important museums, from Picasso Museum to Macbeth, showing tradition and avant-garde. The renovated port and nearby beaches finally attract residents and travelers, creating leisure spaces. Balearic Islands. In the Western Mediterranean, opens an archipelago, uniting marine landscapes and traces of ancient civilizations. Mallorca is the largest island, with Sierra de Tramontana mountains descending to the sea, among villages and terraces cultivated with olive trees. While the city of Palma houses the Gothic cathedral and an always active port. Menorca is quieter, marked by turquoise coves, natural harbors, and prehistoric settlements telling an ancient story. Ibiza instead shows two souls. On one side, Renaissance walls. On the other, nightlife that made the island famous. Not forgetting beaches and beach bars. Formentera remains the smallest and most intimate island, reachable only by ferry, with whitest beaches and transparent waters, making it unique in the Mediterranean. Phoenician, Roman, and Arab roots are still readable in historic centers and popular festivals of the archipelago. Pyrenees. Mountain chain, marking the natural border between Spain and France, guarding imposing and diversified landscapes. Deep valleys, glacial lakes, and beech and fir forests coexist with snow-capped peaks for most of the year. Villages show essential architectures with houses gathered around Romanesque churches. Pastoralism is still present and influences local cuisine, made of aged cheeses and smoked meats. Hiking trails cross national parks like Ordesa and Monte Perdido, where spectacular waterfalls and gorges attract travelers and naturalists. Asturias. Facing the Cantabrian Sea and protected by mountains of Cantabrian Cordillera, Asturias shows green and jagged landscape. Coasts alternate cliffs, sandy beaches, and small fishing ports. In the interior, Picos de Europa offer deep valleys and isolated villages, where strong mountain connection is preserved. Oviedo and Gijón, moreover, tell different stories. The first with its pre-Romanesque and medieval heritage, and the second with maritime and industrial life. Asturias guards a rare balance between wild nature, historical memory, and genuine daily life. Murcia. Mediterranean region of intense light, Murcia is defined by its contrasts. The fertile plains of the Segura, for example, host orchards and vegetable gardens that for centuries have ensured agricultural abundance. The coast, on the other hand, alternates sandy beaches and salt flats, which attract flamingos. Moreover, Moorish fortresses scattered on hills tell the story of disputed territory. Murcia City preserves an imposing Baroque cathedral and alleys animated by markets. Cartagena, instead, with its Roman theater and still vital port, testifies to the region's historical continuity. Cantabria. Between ocean and mountains, Cantabria reveals rich and varied landscape. Coasts open into wide bays and beaches, while the interior is dominated by Picos de Europa reliefs. Caves like Altamira house cave paintings revealing ancient traces of human presence. Santander City, elegant and maritime, offers modern buildings and neighborhoods facing the port. In rural villages, traditional stone houses and customs linked to fieldwork survive. Nature is protected in reserves and parks, hosting varied fauna. Catalonia. Region with strong identity sense, unites sea, mountains, and fertile plains. Barcelona, the capital, preserves medieval neighborhoods and Gaudí's famous architectures. Costa Brava alternates rocky coves and fishing villages like Cadaque, with lively locations like Lloret de Mar. In the interior stands Montserrat Monastery, pilgrimage place surrounded by spectacular rock formations. Each area of Catalonia reveals a distinct face, in continuous balance between modernity and tradition. Aragon. Opens between Pyrenees and Ebro Valley, alternating peaks, forests, and fertile plains. Zaragoza, marked by Pilar Basilica, unites Roman, Arab, and Baroque testimonies, and also houses Aljaferia, Moorish palace transformed into royal residence. Further south, Monegros offers semi-desert landscape, crossed by canyons and ephemeral lagoons. In irrigated valleys, fruit growing still accompanies agricultural life, while Gallicanta Lagoon, among Europe's largest, welcomes thousands of migrating cranes in winter. Visiting Aragon means encountering changing panoramas, from Pyrenean snows to desert silence, to the liveliness of its historic cities. Castilla-La Mancha. A vast and luminous plateau characterizes this region, marked by windmills recalling Don Quixote's figure. Plains are often cultivated with wheat and barley, and alternate with vineyards and olive groves. Toledo emerges as symbolic center, dominating Tagus River from atop its walls. Its narrow and winding streets reveal cultural interweaving, with Gothic cathedrals, medieval synagogues, and Moorish traces coexisting in the same urban fabric. Walking, you encounter artisan shops still working Damascene steel, keeping alive centuries-old mastery. Another regional jewel is Cuenca, known for its hanging houses, precariously suspended on cliffs above Huecar River. Here indeed, time seems to have stopped, leaving these dwellings to eternally watch over rocky precipices. Extremadura. In the western part of Iberian Peninsula, there's an authentic region little altered by tourism. Merida, for example, the ancient capital of Roman Lusitania, preserves an extraordinary archaeological heritage. Theater and amphitheater, still today setting for shows, tell public life from 2,000 years ago. Bridges, aqueducts, and temples interweave with modern urban fabric, creating landscape where history lives in city daily life. Cáceres, instead, surprises with medieval nucleus among Spain's best preserved. Walking through narrow alleys, you still perceive cultural alternation that marked the city, from Muslims to Jews to Christian nobility that sculpted its palaces. And then there are dehesas, which are expanses of cork oaks and holm oaks, hosting Iberian pig farms fed on acorns, from which renowned jamón de bellota is born. Navarre. Enclosed by the Pyrenees to the north and open toward the Ebro Valley to the south, it brings together very diverse landscapes. Mountains offer thick forests, canyons, streams, and villages gathered around Romanesque churches. Further south emerge Bardenas Reales, that is a desert of clay and limestone sculpted by wind into surreal forms. Then there's Pamplona, which beyond famous bull running, houses Renaissance walls, lively squares, and cathedral with deep connection to Santiago pilgrimage. Pilgrims cross hills, monasteries, and villages, creating dialogue between faith and landscape. Each area reveals different faiths, uniting nature and culture uniquely. La Rioja. Small northern region lives in symbiosis with vine. Hills are crossed by orderly rows, and cellars often underground or carved in rock. Logroño, lively capital, invites walking through streets full of taverns, where tapas accompany local wines. Mountains rich with woods and trails complete landscape uniting culture, flavors, and nature. Costa del Sol. Facing Mediterranean in southern Andalusia, there's coastal strip over 150 kilometers or 93 miles long. Beaches vary from urban sandy stretches like those of Malaga and Torremolinos to more sheltered bays among cliffs. Marbella is known as tourist city with luxury hotels, while Nerja offers spectacular views from famous Balcón de Europa. Interior is dotted with pueblos blancos, which are whitewashed villages looking towards sea. Mild climate has favored constant tourism all year, finding in this destination sea, culture, and accessibility in every season. Ronda. Built on steep plateau, divided in two parts by deep canyon of Guadalquivir River. Puente Nuevo, imposing 18th century bridge, connects old city with modern zone, offering spectacular views over gorges. Historic center preserves Arab walls and noble palaces, and walking through alleys and terraces, you encounter artisan shops and small museums. In Plaza de Toros, finally, among Spain's oldest, bullfighting tradition is still told. Altea. Nestled on Costa Blanca, recognizable for blue and white dome of Nuestra Señora del Consuelo Church, dominating labyrinth of whitewashed houses. Stone streets climb toward historic center, among shops, workshops, outdoor cafes, and terraces overlooking Mediterranean. Seafront instead stretches for kilometers, with pebble beaches and small bays. From tourist port, moreover, boat excursions depart toward nearby coves, ideal for those seeking quieter sea. Santillana del Mar. This Cantabrian village preserves intact its medieval layout, with stone palaces, towers, and paved streets seeming suspended in time. Santa Giuliana Collegiate, with its Romanesque cloister, is the most representative monument. Noble houses display flowered wooden balconies and noble coats of arms. And there are craft shops and inns serving traditional dishes. Village atmosphere is calm and collected, also thanks to limited car access to center. Setenil de las Bodegas. In Andalusia, there exists a village where houses are built directly into the rock, exploiting natural caves as walls and ceilings. The dwellings develop along the gorges carved by the Rio Trejo, creating covered streets where limestone replaces roofs. Cuevas del Sol and Cuevas de la Sombra are the two main streets where these cave dwellings are concentrated. The name Bodegas instead derives from the ancient cellars carved into the rock, used to preserve wine and oil. Albarracín. In the heart of Aragon hides an inhabited center perched on a rocky hill, which seems suspended in time. The red brick and wood houses follow the natural course of the terrain, creating narrow and winding alleys, which wind among medieval walls. The 14th century city walls embrace the entire settlement, while the cathedral dominates the surrounding panorama. During Arab domination indeed, the center took its name from the Banu Razin family, who governed the area for centuries. Tossa de Mar. A maritime village protected by medieval walls, which stands out on the Catalan Costa Brava. The Vila Vella, which is the fortified historic quarter, preserves watchtowers and walkways, which offer panoramic views of the coast. Sandy beaches are protected by rocky coves, while the restaurants serve fresh fish and Catalan specialties. The historic center preserves traditional houses, and here the voices of fishermen still echo as they tell stories of the sea. Valdemosa. In Sierra de Tramontana Mountains, Mallorca houses Stone Village, immersed among olive trees and cultivated terraces. At its heart lies the Carthusian Monastery, where Chopin and George Sand once stayed, now a museum preserving memories of their time there. Climbing streets show houses with green shutters, flowered courtyards, and small craft shops. Atmosphere is tranquil, with squares hosting markets and cafes. The surroundings offer trails that lead through forests and panoramic views of the sea. Frigiliana. On the Andalusian coast, just a few kilometers from the Mediterranean, Frigiliana's white houses shine like sugar under the sun. This village has dominated the valley for centuries, the last bastion of Moorish resistance against Christian conquerors in the 16th century. Its alleys still preserve a medieval Arab structure, with streets that intertwine without apparent logic, designed to confuse invaders. Plants and white and blue paintings adorn every corner, while tile panels on house walls illustrate the historic local revolt against Spanish rule. Castellfollit de la Roca. Imagine a basalt balcony which defies gravity from over 164 feet or 50 meters in height. The volcanic stone houses literally cling to the precipice, forming a single compact wall which dominates the Fluvia River Valley. The Church of San Salvador emerges among the dwellings, with its bell tower pointing toward the sky, while the foundations sink into the basaltic rock. The cobblestone streets, instead, lead to beautiful panoramas over the Catalan plain. Sóller. Hidden in citrus valley of Serra de Tramontana, Sóller is modernist jewel set in Mallorca's heart. Main Square bustles with life around majestic church, whose facade is work of Gaudí's pupil, challenging gaze with sinuous forms. Liberty palaces tell prosperity brought by citrus trade. Few kilometers away, there's Port de Sóller, which with its colorful boats gently swaying in horseshoe-shaped bay, invites contemplative pause. This characteristic natural port is connected to Sóller by characteristic tram, offering visitors unique way to move between two locations. Trujillo. Located in Extremadura, rises on hill dominated by imposing Arab fortress. Narrow streets lead to Plaza Mayor, wide and harmonious, where Renaissance palaces and lightstone stand out, and Francisco Pizarro's statue. Trujillo preserves medieval towers, Gothic churches, and remains of Moorish walls. Atmosphere is marked by slow rhythms of city that saw conquistadors depart for New World. Alleys open onto internal courtyards and panoramic terraces with views over surrounding plains. Peñíscola. Rocky promontory on Mediterranean House's Old City, enclosed by 16th century walls. On top rises Templar Castle, built in the 13th century and later became papal residence of Benedict XIII. From terraces, sandy beaches extending north and rocky coves south are observed. Alleys descend toward port, among ceramic shops and flowered balconies. Daily life instead flows among fish bars and street markets. Mijas. On hills overlooking Costa del Sol, this Andalusian village is interweaving of white houses adorned with colorful flowers. Paved squares house small churches like Immaculate Conception, built over ancient mosque. Narrow alleys instead lead to natural terraces with sea and coastal plain views. Curious detail is presence of donkey-drawn carts, once serving as transport for inhabitants, and today remaining only as characteristic village symbol. Concluding this visual journey through Spain, we have moved from the charm of its varied landscapes to the most iconic highlights of its historic cities, discovering not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this country unique. We hope that the images and stories shared have enriched your knowledge and inspired the desire to personally explore the extraordinary beauty of this nation.